The first question is, how do the mind and body work together? The mind and body are connected because the mind tells the body what to do. For example, if you think it, you'll do it. According to Wisdom Feed, Dr. Mark Hyman said, "What's in your body is your brain." This explains how what poisons the body poisons the mind and vice versa. Psychology Today says that the pineal gland in the brainstem was a signal point of communication between the mind and the body. However, it can only respond to physical action.
The second question is, what are positive and negative effects on how the mind and body work together? A negative effect, according to familydoctor.org, is when your mind is stressed, anxious, or upset, your body can react and cause you to have low blood pressure. A positive effect on how the mind and body work together is that you are not your thought, rather an observer of them. Also, your thoughts have the same influence on your body. Your thoughts drive your emotional state. For example, how your mind and body are working together influences your health.
Are you sleeping restlessly, feeling irritable or moody, forgetting little things, and feeling overwhelmed and isolated? Don't worry. We've all been there. You're probably just stressed out. Stress isn't always a bad thing. It can be handy for a burst of extra energy and focus, like when you're playing a competitive sport or have to speak in public. But when it's continuous, the kind most of us face day in and day out, it actually begins to change your brain. Chronic stress, like being overworked or having arguments at home, can affect brain size, its structure, and how it functions, right down to the level of your genes. Stress begins with something called the hypothalamus-pituitary-adrenal axis, a series of interactions between endocrine glands in the brain and on the kidney, which controls your body's reaction to stress. When your brain detects a stressful situation, your HPA axis is instantly activated and releases a hormone called cortisol, which primes your body for instant action. But high levels of cortisol over long periods of time wreak havoc on your brain. For example, chronic stress increases the activity level and number of neural connections in the amygdala, your brain's fear center. And as levels of cortisol rise, electric signals in your hippocampus, the part of the brain associated with learning, memories, and stress control, deteriorate. The hippocampus also inhibits the activity of the HPA axis, so when it weakens, so does your ability to control your stress. That's not all though. Cortisol can literally cause your brain to shrink in size. Too much of it results in the loss of synaptic connections between neurons and the shrinking of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that regulates behaviors like concentration, decision-making, judgment, and social interaction. It also leads to fewer new brain cells being made in the hippocampus. This means chronic stress might make it harder for you to learn and remember things, and also set the stage for more serious mental problems like depression and eventually Alzheimer's disease. The effects of stress may filter right down to your brain's DNA. An experiment showed that the amount of nurturing a mother rat provides its newborn baby plays a part in determining how that baby responds to stress later in life. The pups of nurturing moms turned out less sensitive to stress because their brains developed more cortisol receptors, which stick to cortisol and dampen the stress response. The pups of negligent moms had the opposite outcome, and so became more sensitive to stress throughout life. These are considered epigenetic changes, meaning that they affect which genes are expressed without directly changing the genetic code. And these changes can be reversed if the moms are swapped. But there's a surprising result. The epigenetic changes caused by one single mother rat were passed down to many generations of rats after her. In other words, the results of these actions were inheritable. It's not all bad news, though. There are many ways to reverse what cortisol does to your stressed brain. The most powerful weapons are exercise and meditation, which involves breathing deeply and being aware and focused on your surroundings. Both of these activities decrease your stress and increase the size of the hippocampus, thereby improving your memory. So don't feel defeated by the pressures of daily life. Get in control of your stress before it takes control of you.
I have a question for you. How much does it cost to stand upright? Does anyone here have the answer to that question? I'm not too sure anyone has the answer to that question. And besides, could it be that the answer differs based on the individual? In 1978, researchers asked themselves the same question. What they found out was that standing upright increases both heart rate and blood pressure. In 2016, the question is, could it be that how we move, how we learn, and how we think is interconnected? To move better. Are we really in control of our movements? If it's true that we organize movements with the frontal lobe, this is based on how we perceive the environment. And so, would you think that the strategy to move is the same whether we stand on ice, on sand, or in the mud? In 1998, neuroscientist J.P. Roll published on the role of the skin of the foot. What he found out was that we use inputs from the skin of our feet to stand upright and to move. And so, knowing this, how do you think this foot stance contributes to posture? In 1985, a technique entitled posturology was born. And posturology's aim is to stimulate the feet and the eyes with innovative technology and exercises to allow someone to stand upright optimally, and this is the kicker, without them having to actually think about it. These are the types of results achieved by posturologists across the world. These are specifically from PosturePro, our research center here in Montreal. What you see here is what's possible with posturology. To learn better. How would you say movement and academics are related? Well, movement and academics actually share a common organ. That organ is called the cerebellum. It is postural muscles that are responsible for turning on the cerebellum, and postural muscles are the ones we use to stand upright. So knowing this, when looking at these two individuals, which one do you think benefits from optimal information being sent from their muscles to the cerebellum in order to light up the entire brain? If it's true that the cerebellum turns on the motor areas of the brain, the cerebellum also turns on the language areas. And so what you have to understand is that with a postural imbalance, it's the entire brain that doesn't get lit up to its full potential. And it is both movement and learning that suffer. Now, to turn on postural muscles, one needs to resist a force. And that force is the force of gravity. So the question is, what happens when there's no gravity? In 1999, researchers actually looked at that. What they did is they scrutinized 29 different studies looking at 6 different cognitive measures. What they found out was that while in space, cognitive measures actually do appear to be affected. Meanwhile, here on Earth, in 2006, researchers studied the brains of adults with ADHD. What they found out is that there was a particular brain area that was smaller. And that area was for both movement and attention. That area was indeed the frontal lobe. And so, the next time you think of a learning disability, will you be able to think of this versus this?